Hey guys, welcome back to the Dr. Mo Show, where we learned through a back door that through every burnout that we've had, health is everything. So I'm here today with Seth Sundberg. I will let you give me a little bit of intro with your burnout story and how you use that as rocket fuel. And I'm sure in there
Sure.
we will circle right around to health.
Yeah, sure. No, so thanks for having me. I'm excited to chat with you. This is awesome. I love the topic, and I think burnout shows up in a lot of different ways. My background is I was a professional basketball player for 7 years, and then moved into real estate. The short version is I did really well in real estate. Actually, made more money in real estate than I did playing basketball, and got more arrogant than I already was, playing basketball too. And in that space of arrogance, I took on the IRS and I lost. And I spent 5 years in federal prison from 2009 to 2014. So there's a whole kind of probably other angle of burnout that most people may or may not know about. I lost everything in the process, and from 2014 to now, have built back a pretty sizable real estate portfolio of 414 units, and have a coaching program to teach people how to acquire multifamily assets. I do some consulting with some tech companies that are specifically in the criminal justice space, which has opened my eyes up. And obviously going through the situation that I went through was like, this is really needs to change in a lot of different ways. And then I have invested in some sustainable renewable energy companies. So there's that angle. So there's a lot, and there's a lot of different ways that burnout has shown up. But I always equate it. One of the things that's great about sports, and especially team sports, is you get pushed to your limit, and then you where you think you're at, and then you figure out tools and abilities and understandings, and being real with that limit, and then working through and going, okay, finding a different direction from there, right? It's like, fourth quarter, 2 minutes left, down by one, you're exhausted, right? What do you do at that point, right? And you figure out, a why. You figure out, there's a lot of different tools and techniques to get through that, and that applies, I think in business a lot too. So, yeah. Anyways, that's the long and the short of it for right now.
I never related the sport part. And my podcasts are loosey goosey, and we're going to take it wherever it
Awesome.
goes.
Awesome.
But my first Ironman was in 2009, oddly.
Mm.
Um, and I was the last official finisher. So I had 17 seconds before the midnight cutoff. Back then we had mass starts. And
Mm.
you say that, and it's funny because I remember 30 seconds looking at the finish line down the chute, and I thought, there is no way I can get there in
Right.
30 seconds. Like,
Right.
time warps, time
Yep.
bends, and you find ways you don't
Yep.
know how. I kind of call it Ironman time because it doesn't make any sense, right? If we
Yep.
look at linear time, it doesn't make any sense. Now that brings me to, you truly lost everything. People say, "Oh, I lost everything." Yes, but they had a bank account, or they were living in a house, or they had a
Yep.
marriage. Now,
Right.
granted, I do have a history in both me and my family of addiction, so I know what losing everything looks like.
Yep.
Um, I
Yep.
know what financial crimes and losing everything looks like as well in my family.
Mm.
So we have
Yep.
sordid history. We're fine, because I'm sure we're alone. We're special little snowflakes.
Right. 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 Exactly. Yeah. Nobody
Um,
else has gone through it. Exactly.
but when you rebuilt that, I have two questions because this
Sure.
really intrigues me. You had to rebuild your identity. You still had the skills, right? But you had to approach everything
Absolutely.
from a different perspective of, hey, I went from arrogance of thinking I can do anything, from a
Yeah.
true knowing of, no, I can do anything.
Yeah. 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 No, absolutely. And it's a great point you bring up. It's the prison system is designed to not just put people, pluck people out of society and put them in a warehousing environment, but it's also designed to beat you down emotionally, mentally, and physically while you're there. And
Sounds like
uh,
medical school.
yeah, 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 I'm sure. Yeah, most institutions are kind of structured this way, right? And whether we choose to accept them as that or not, is our perspective. But I will tell you this: prison was the hardest thing I've ever had to do in my life. And I don't want to do it again, but also the best thing that could have happened to me, right? I was able to, I fought the reality of the situation for, a couple years, and then I realized, you know what, this is the reality. I've caused this. This is my fault. Nobody else's. Like for a while, I blamed yada yada yada, and nothing ever gets, you can't move through anything in that space, right? So it was a radical ownership period. It was kind of, okay, well, if that's true, what do I care about? Who am I? What am I? What do I like? What do I not like? What do I care about? What are my values? All these things. And understanding that was amazing. And now I know who I am, and it's not, I don't come from a space of arrogance anymore. I just go, this is me, and people can like it and people cannot, and that's okay. And I'm not, I'm not going to battle them, and that's their perspective, and they have their opinions, et cetera, et cetera. So anyways, the point is that going through that process was challenging and tough, but also getting to start fresh and clean at zero was a blessing in itself too, right? It's, I'm in a good position now. I'm still not done. I haven't reached my goals, right? But I'm much further along. When I first got out, you'll probably appreciate this story. So when I first got out, I think I had $40 of gate money, right? And that was it. I mean, that's my net worth is $40. And
But with no debt, you also have $40, right? There are a lot of
exactly. So it was
people.
positive. Yeah, it was positive. But you know, I felt worthless, right? I didn't feel like, I felt like I had nothing to offer society, nothing to offer my family, like I was just kind of just I couldn't help, right? And so I said, all right, maybe that's true. Maybe it's not. What if it's not? Right? What can I do? Well, I know I've been eating like crap for the last 5 years, right? And so I got out and I spent I think it was like $4 on some coconut oil and another $4 on, apple cider vinegar. And that was my investment. That was the beginning of my investment back into myself,
That's
and just,
amazing.
I'm gonna start fleshing out my system a bit, and and going. And it was spending 25% of my net worth on that stuff at the time too. So pretty significant investment. But that was the beginning of kind of building back.
So it's funny that when you said that institutions do that, whether we choose to accept it or not, man, did that hit me.
Hmm.
I was pushed out of a job, taken out of a job, frankly. Rightly so. Looking back, right? You blamed for a while. It's again, it's the stages of grief, right?
Yep.
Like anything else. And I got taken out of a job, hospital job that I loved. I mean, I didn't know I was burned out. So that was kind of the difference.
Hmm.
I loved my job. I would go into my shifts as an emergency physician, level 2 trauma center. I'd go into my shift. Every shift I would have shift goals. I got 7 hours of sleep in between shifts. I was still working out, I was still doing the things. There were some aspects that I'm still not done with. Like you said, we're still not there.
Well, always a work in progress.
But when you said that about the institutions, I didn't fit anymore. Like
Hmm.
I couldn't, as I started doing these other things on the side for myself financially, because I had told my boss years ago, when I find something that pays me and that I enjoy doing, feeds my soul, and I'm of value, I'm going to cut my shifts back.
Yeah.
And he didn't, of course, when it's all in theory, nobody cares.
Right.
When it comes down to the wire, it doesn't go over well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that is true. I mean, the job, when you're in medical school and residency, it has to be this way. Okay, I think I might have just I said something that I've been brainwashed into thinking, right? I feel like it has to be that way to create adequate physicians, adequate healthcare providers who are going to give enough.
Right.
But what if instead of the arrogance, instead of cultivating that arrogance, we cultivated a true understanding and knowledge of, no, you don't have to memorize these 5,000 facts. We have them right here. How about we understand the system? We understand how to relate to people. And I don't mean by a 5-step open-ended interview format. I mean talking to people.
Yeah.
And that's what I started to do as a doctor in these rooms in the ER, and that doesn't fit well.
Yep.
You
Yep.
don't, it just doesn't.
Yep. You're breaking the mold at that point. there was a something that I like. So one of the reasons why I got into trouble, my crime was tax fraud. I basically forced the IRS to send me a refund check for 5.7 million that I didn't deserve. Long story in that,
I'm
but
impressed.
part
I'm
of
not
it,
going to lie. Just
I appreciate that. Thanks. Long story short was I did it because I had lost faith in the financial system. I was running a mortgage company, had an investment firm that was doing really well, and I started kind of just unpacking it a bit and going, "Oh, there's a lot of lies and deceit in here, and things that are just not right." And started to get angry. It was the beginning of kind of the financial, crisis that we had there, and so I saw people losing their properties, and it just kind of ate at me. Anyways, long story short, when I started going, and I was upset, and it took me a while to get to this point. But what I realized is that if I don't have, I mean, the systems are the systems, right? And some of them, even though I don't agree with them, are brilliant, right? And I go, until I have a better suggestion or system to suggest putting forward, I'm just complaining. I'm just part of the problem, right? And that doesn't do anything for anybody. And so I was like, either I make a decision, I go, okay, I'll create a new system, or figure out a way to just work with the current system and do improvements, right? Rather than, fighting against it. And so it was like,
you get light bulbs for that one.
so, it
You're
was,
like,
it
no, this
was,
is important. Everyone
yeah,
listening, pay attention.
yeah, it
Because
was a
I
very
do, I
impressive
complain
piece.
in my space, right? I work with people that are looking for healthcare. They don't have options. We don't have great options. But
Mhm.
every word I say that complains about the system, I don't have a way to solve it other than what I'm doing, right?
Right,
So
right.
put the energy into what I'm doing. Stop
Absolutely.
complaining about the system.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's like it's the same energy, right? It's the same, it can go that way or it can go this way. And when it starts going that way, that's when the magic happens in my experience.
Yeah. So, I mean, you literally physically railed against the system, got
Mhm.
angry. That anger took the shape of $5.7 million
Mhm.
because the system sucks and we know it sucks,
Mhm.
but we still have to work within the system.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We don't have a choice.
Yeah, I mean, you have a choice, but there's
Well,
consequences to every choice, right? So
exactly.
we still have the power of choice and
True that.
maybe the illusion of choice, who knows? But you definitely have a choice. But the reality is, like, I don't have a better system to suggest,
Mm.
when it comes to the financial system, right? It's intricate, it's deep, it's ingenious in a lot of ways, it's deceitful in a lot of ways, like I said, but understanding that and going, okay, how can we utilize this to be able to benefit from it and improve it for others is also a choice that we can make inside of it.
So now when you help people with real estate and coaching, is your coaching all based around real estate and teaching people how to build?
The coaching side is, yeah, yeah, it's
So
specifically apartment acquisitions. Yeah.
how do you teach people, not how, I don't like the word how. I guess
Yeah.
how. I mean, you run out of words after a while.
Okay.
When you teach people, because you have to teach them to work within the system, right? Do you
Mhm.
teach them, I mean, obviously mindset's part of it.
Mhm. Absolutely.
Obviously, you stay on this side of the legality of things.
Absolutely.
Um, I guess my question is, how do you keep people focused on, you can't change other people's behavior. How do you steer people into staying on the listen, the system is the system. Let's do the
Yeah.
best we can for you within the
Yeah.
system. How does that
Yeah.
how does that come across as far as your
Yeah.
coaching?
Yeah, I mean, I think real estate is one of those things that the system is built for, right? So whether it's residential or multifamily, I was doing all residential stuff before. I do some residential now, but 80% of it is multifamily. And there's a an information gap between those two things, right? So that has to be covered just from an information standpoint. But the reality is we don't have a lack of information or a lack of availability of information, right? That's not what keeps us in our cages, right? Whether they're mental or physical or whatever it is. It's the application of that. And there's mental block. I mean, the mental game is a big piece of the puzzle, I think, in any stage, right? And we all need coaches. One of the things that's really, I realized since doing this coaching program is that I've been coached since I was 12.
Yeah.
And it's just something that is part of my life, right? I don't think that's, I think if you don't have a coach, right, you're going, well, you're just kind of flapping around, right? But a lot of people don't have that same experience, right? So coaching is new, getting being allowing somebody to influence them, and hopefully in a positive way is new, right? So um and just kind of vibing with people is also present when it comes to that as well, right? But staying, utilizing the system, to get back to your question, utilizing the system for what it's built for is the best thing to do. Now, most people just don't know what it's built for, right? Most people don't understand the tax incentives in real estate. Most people don't understand how to underwrite. That's the biggest thing that I see for people either that are getting into real estate for the first time or are moving from residential to multifamily is the underwriting process. They just don't understand that process. And they think it's such a complex algorithm and all this stuff. And it's really not. It's not difficult. It's like learning how to work out, right? You go, okay, I gotta work on my pectoral muscles, right? Okay, we're gonna do chest press, right? And this is how to do it. This is the proper form. And then it's just picking it up and putting it down, over and over again,
over and over.
right? And just doing it, right? So that's what I help people through is really, the underwriting piece. We have and it's the multifamily accelerator. We have a guy that the other day, I was real proud of him. He's a new guy, hasn't been in real estate before. It took him about 4 hours to underwrite a project when he first got in about 2 months ago. And he told me the other day, he's like, man, he's like, I underwrote this thing in 40 minutes.
Wow.
And I was like, exactly. Like that's, you're doing the reps, right? You're putting in the work, right? And he's there. He shows up every week. He's on the accelerator during the week, right? And it's like there's no secret sauce. There's no magic pill. There's no, it's just, yeah, exactly. I mean,
Unfortunately, right? You
unfortunate,
don't have
right?
a
We'd
magic
all take,
wand in there anywhere because I
right.
really
We'd
need
all,
that
we'd
one.
all take it if it was present, right? But it's not. And that's kind of the beauty of it, right? Is like,
Yeah.
it's just the decisions to do it and move forward. So, that's what I see a lot in the coaching side.
You say that about coaching, and with the Olympics that had just passed a few months ago, I did a couple posts on this that I grew up swimming.
Mhm.
Since seventh grade, I had a coach, right? You have a coach, and
Yep.
I looking back, I'm more likely to have a coach than a therapist. Michael Neal is one of my favorite authors, and he said, a stick floating down the river that gets stuck, it doesn't need therapy, it needs a nudge.
Right.
And that's why coaching is. I'm not going to talk about your mother. I mean, I might,
Yep.
but only if I know her. And but I'm going to look at your situation now and say, okay, where are
Right.
you? What are we doing? And I look back during the Olympics. I said, how many of these athletes got here without a coach? Zero.
Right. Absolutely.
No one succeeds without a coach because if you sit there and ruminate in your head, which is my
Yep.
specialty, I'll be honest,
Hmm.
you ruminate in your head about how do I do this? What do I do? What's my next step? Everything. I joke that my brain is a snow globe. I would have been voted least likely to create a successful system because I get caught up in the drama in my head of, okay, I have to do this and I have to do this. And what are all these things I have to do? Instead of, wait,
Right.
hold on a second. That's why I joke. I prefer to have males as coaches
Hmm.
or women who think like males
Hmm.
because my brain's a mess. I need someone to like draw me a diagram, tell me how this fits in.
Right. Right.
I can't do that. I don't have that skill. Sure, could I develop that skill? Yes, but it would take me longer to develop that skill than to do the thing
Absolutely.
I want to do.
Yep, 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 absolutely. And it's the experience of the coaches and there has to be a level of trust, right? And going, hey, do they know the thing that where I want to be? Do they know how to get there, right? Are they going to direct me in the right path? And do I trust them enough to be vulnerable, right? Which is a lot of it. And that becomes a lot of times the where the rubber meets the road, right? If you're not, we have a process that we do called hot seats, which is a lot of fun.
Okay.
And we'll get people onto a hot seat and I preface it that this is a vulnerable position. It's a vulnerable position in front of other people too, right? It's going, okay, tell me about where you're at. A lot of times it's people that are looking at their first property or, looking to get into their first project and, have been at it for a while or whatever the story is behind it. And as long as they're open and vulnerable, you get to unpack it and you can kind of see where the mental blocker is, or where the process blocker is, whatever. And that's when you start going deep into that. And then it becomes, Dan's great at this, right? Like, Dan's great at going, oh, that's actually, your mom,
You
told you
ask,
this, and that was the
yeah,
story that you
you
play,
ask them a
and you're like,
question
wait,
and you're
what? We
like,
were just talking
oh,
about marketing, you know?
I just wanted to know about this funnel. And next
Exactly,
thing you know, he's
exactly.
like, so what are you
Yeah.
afraid of? I'm like, I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't know.
Exactly, exactly. So
That's
it's
pretty cool.
and that's
I like the name hot seat though, because
yeah,
I think I might start using that. Fair
go for
warning.
it for sure. No,
In
it's
the
better.
coaching calls, because that's the thing. I'll pull up people and I'll ask them questions, but I don't push them. And I create a safe space. My goal, I mean, like any good solid coach, our goal is to create a safe space. Like we
Yeah,
have happy hour for my patients. I have a medical practice as well.
yeah.
And it's not a HIPAA compliant space, but only patients are allowed in that room. So we know that it's like sitting in the waiting room talking to somebody. You're in
Yeah.
that doctor's office. It's not a HIPAA
Yeah.
compliant space, but it's more like a reverent space where we actually had a scammer get his way in.
Hmm.
And I was mortified. I was like, change the systems, change the process. This can never
Uh,
happen again. Now, granted, it happened once in a year and a half. So we're doing okay.
yep, absolutely.
But having those safe spaces where if I'm in your coaching group and I get put in the hot seat, I'm okay with it because I know
Yeah.
you're there. And I don't care if I tell you, I don't know, I can't make up a random crazy thought, which is crazy because I'm sure I got plenty of habits I would not be willing to say on camera. I don't know, not so much anymore though. I drink way too much coffee. That's number one. I don't work out like I should. And
Hmm.
I don't like shooting all over myself. So it's my least favorite word.
Yeah.
But here's a story about that. Dan always says, you're either spiraling up or spiraling down, and you don't know which day the spiral started. Like, no, I
Yeah.
know exactly which day that started. But you get too caught up in the business stuff and the brain
Yeah.
stuff, and no. So
Yeah.
that's
And sometimes you just need a reset, right? Sometimes
yep,
you just need to go, look, I did what I did, I didn't do what I didn't do, and now we're here. That's
yes.
complete. What do we want to do from this point forward? Right. And and it's a place to go, look, that's complete. It's done. Like whatever was there has run its course. I got out of it what I got out of it, and you know, that's it. And now what?
I like that a lot. I've got a couple situations, mostly business related, of course,
Mhm.
that are like that. I'm like, and it's not throwing good money after bad. It's just going down a long path. Like,
Mhm.
do I continue on this path or do we shift a little bit, make things simpler, which I know the answer. We shift,
Yep.
we make things simpler, we stop making things complicated, and we go this way.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
But like you said, it's a reset. Where are you today?
Yep.
Not where were you yesterday? Don't
Right.
ask.
Yep.
And, with your situation coming out in 2014, I think that's a fantastic positive take on things. Almost no one on the planet would take the perspective that you did.
Interesting. You may be right. I hope you're not, but you may be right. Yeah,
I hope I'm not too.
yeah, there's an interesting, I've done some consulting with some Y Combinator companies, right? And YC is the largest tech investor on the planet now, right? They started Airbnb and Dropbox and Reddit and all this stuff. And their processes, their systems are solid, but their experience is what really matters for these companies. And they have a question that they ask each founder at the beginning of their cohorts, and they go, what do you think makes a successful company? What do you think is the number one reason why companies are successful? Like the skills that a company has, or whatever it is, or whatever's needed to make a company successful. And most people say, oh, they got to be capitalized right, or you got to find product market fit, fast, or you got to have the right team, or whatever the case may be. And those are all good things, but according to YC, the number one thing that determines a company's probability of success is the ability of the founder to iterate quickly. To say, we went down this road, we got that information, complete. Take that, make these adjustments, try that, complete. Take those adjustments, make those learnings, et cetera. And the ability and the speed of which they do that at is the number one determinant of success for that company. And NYC says it at the beginning of every cohort too. They say, the company that you have right now is not the company that you're going to leave here with, right? You may have a completely different product. You may have a completely different service, whatever it is than what you're doing right now. And we expect that. And that's what should happen, right? For a startup. So, a lot of times we hold on to, and I do this too. It's a constant process of holding on to the way things were, or that's just the way it was done or whatever. And not saying that's, we can move fast. And, one of the great things about having to start from zero is, it's clear to see where the different levels are. And you go, oh, I'm having a hard time right now. But also that means because I'm at a different level than I was,
Yeah.
a month ago, a week ago, year ago, whatever it is, right?
With
So
entrepreneurship, 30 minutes ago.
30 minutes ago, exactly. Yeah, 100%. So,
That's really interesting because I've had some personnel experiences in the first 2 years. My company's a little over 2 years old, and we've had some personnel experiences where the ability to change. I admittedly, much like in Dan's book, he talks about the speed demon.
mm,
I felt like I was moving too quickly, but I think part of it is in the medical space, nothing moves quickly.
right, right.
You know, we
Yeah,
are there. We're using textbooks and exams that are 20 years old. Uh,
absolutely. Yeah.
dude, that's not going to work. People will
Yeah.
die,
Yep, yep, yep,
literally.
yep, yep, yep,
And
yep.
so, but I was thinking about this when you said that the personnel that, having the right people in the right seats on the bus, we've gone through quite a few because I paid for hopes and dreams. I really wanted these particular people to go with me.
Mhm,
And one of the things that there were a few of them repeatedly said is, well, we've got to let things sit this way for a while because we can't make changes. People
mhm,
don't like change. And instead, I was insecure at the time, right? It's like my 12th business, but the first successful one. I
mhm,
outsourced my confidence. And when they said that to me, I thought to myself, I must not know best.
mhm.
Now, you telling me that thinks, no, you knew best. It was in your gut. You knew exactly what to do. You just didn't
Yep.
have the guts to do it.
Yeah. And again, that skill is specifically for the founder. I mean, this is according to YC, right? So this is,
Right.
they've seen, a couple
But they're a
thousand
little
things now.
successful. So,
Yeah. And
I'll
they
listen.
theoretically give you the best probabilities for success, right?
Right.
And no, they can't guarantee it, but it's like, it's the founder's skill, right? It's not the team skill, right? It's like the founder's skill and ability to shift quickly
Not their job.
and then lead it, right? Lead the rest of the team in that is the best determinant. So, yeah, when you think through it, it makes sense, right? Logically, but you're just like, oh, it's so difficult a lot of times to do in the moment. And it means, like literally equal sign to constant change,
Yes.
right? And that's hard for a lot of people, to get, used to. Yeah. I mean, all of us for sure.
Really. I mean, because sometimes it's like, can I just breathe for a second? Nope.
Right. Right.
I was meeting with someone the other day just on a collaborative call. And he said he heard something the day before that as entrepreneurs, the human mind wants to have no problems, right? We
Mhm.
want to just chill out and have no problems.
Yeah.
He said, but as entrepreneurs, our job is to find bigger problems.
Yep. Yep.
And even my dad, who was upper level management, he did computer networking back in the day. Like he used to build his computers. He used to have a computer room in the house, which is a very
Wow.
fond memory of me, which is why I love
Yeah,
tech.
yeah.
And he came out for a week this summer, and we were talking, and he said, as a manager, my job was to find the biggest pile of shit and jump in it.
Mm. Mm.
Because he has an entrepreneurial mindset. Although he did not do that, he treated his jobs, which is why he became a linchpin in his companies, you know,
Yep. Yep.
because why he became a linchpin in those companies, because not, like you said, the institutions do not reward that. Tech
Mhm.
companies are a different animal
Mhm.
is because they are.
That's the environment. That's the culture. That's what
Correct.
they're looking for. Iteration, iteration, iteration. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's tough.
It is. Yeah.
That's,
It is.
I'm thinking about this, and it makes me think about medicine. It makes me think about real estate because
Yeah.
I always joked to the detriment of my job, frankly, that guys, we're just because I worked overnight. I only work nights in the ER. I still work occasionally in the ER, very small ones in the same system because I love that hospital system for what it's worth. I just
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
and I want to stay connected, but not in a way that's pathologic, right? It's like setting family boundaries. Like I like it, but we can't
Yep.
be there all the time. I'm not moving in.
Yep.
And, in that system, I used to joke that guys, we're just moving deck chairs on the Titanic at this point. We just need to save the ones that are going to die. And, the 35 in the waiting room, if they die, I'll see them sooner.
Wow. Yeah.
Like, and it's a horrible way to think about things, but the problem was I verbalized it.
Yeah. Uh, where it's more just known and unsaid and
You just
yeah,
keep going and, you
yeah,
have the hope that you can clear it out.
yeah,
It's open 24 hours a day. Our job shouldn't be to clear it out.
yeah, right.
Our job should be to be whatever. Again, I'm not
Yeah,
changing the system.
yeah.
And this is such a huge takeaway for me. I'm like, damn it, I had you on my podcast and I got the takeaway, which is usually what happens, right? It's synergy, it works.
For sure.
But I'm not going to change the system.
Yeah.
So in my practice, we can do things differently. I can be an innovator,
Yep.
I can be a visionary, and that's okay. That's
Yep.
actually my job.
100%. Yep. And that's the best thing for not just for you, your team, your clients, but for the world, right? I mean, if everybody was taking that approach, like, and being the best we can for ourselves, but also that's the best thing for everybody, right? So, 100%. You mentioned about the problems, right? And identify them. Dan actually, he's got that loving way to grill people, right? He called me out on one of the coaching calls and said, Seth, you need to just go out and create some problems. And I was like, I feel like I have a lot of like there's some real challenges, but he was like going out and creating real problems, like, and it's like and I was like, okay. And he was absolutely right. It's like, all right, let's go create these things that are real in reality rather than just, our thought processes or, what we think is going on. So it's a great call.
Yeah. Yeah. Like how many of the problems that we have, and it's Mark Twain style, right? I've been through many things in my life and some of them actually happened.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's a God's honest truth. And we all know it
Yeah.
with the frontal lobe. But if the frontal lobe was driving the bus, we wouldn't be in this predicament.
Yep.
So,
Yep. Yep. 100%.
it's a lot of bouncing things back and forth with a coach, with a mentor, with a trusted friend, even
Yep.
the right trusted friend.
Yep.
And that's the thing for those of you who don't know on this podcast, Seth and I are both in Dan Martell's coaching group. Again, so this is, we have different levels and we are coaches because we coach on very specific things that Dan doesn't coach on or whatever.
Mhm.
But in that group, I never feel like I feel accepted. I feel protected. I
Yeah.
can say things, you can say things about income levels, whatever it is, high, low, it doesn't matter. You
Yep.
come with a problem, a mindset problem around money, around growth, around company, around health. I'm in Dan's fitness as well
Mhm.
because again, I needed a reset. I needed somebody who wasn't in my head. I have all the knowledge in the world about fitness and freaking health. Doesn't matter if you don't implement it because you
Absolutely.
don't have the accountability, you don't have that safe space.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So I think coaching is just incredibly valuable. Um, I don't know. How many coaches do you currently have? Do you only have one?
No. At least three right now, and I'm sure I could probably throw a couple other people into the onto the coaching side, whether it's official or unofficial
Right?
too. Right?
You've got the side mentors that you're like, hey, wait, I got a question.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah, I
Yep.
limit myself to 3 paid only because, much like anything else, I'll do more shelf help, as Dan calls it. I'll
Right.
do more
Right.
shelf help and I'll start learning too much, implementing
Yep.
less. I'm like, no, no, no.
Yep.
Spend more
Yep.
time doing, less time learning. Let's go.
Yep.
You've got the
Yep.
information. So
Yep.
to wrap this up, if people want to get into real estate, multifamily, how do they contact you? What's the best way
Yep.
for them to find you?
Yeah, the best thing to do is just find me on Instagram, Seth Sundberg, SethSundberg. And the other thing too is if anybody's interested in multifamily real estate specifically, I'm happy to give your viewers, a free copy of our underwriting, training and template and everything. You can just DM me underwriting and I'll send that over to anybody that's interested in that for sure.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Because much like the health concerns, wealth is so My coaching model teaches a table. There's three legs on the table. It's health, wealth, and relationships. Relationships I actually call service, because the things we do in service to our family. Like you said, you didn't feel like you were of value. How
Yep.
are we of value to our family, of value to ourselves, value to the public, value to our clients, all of it.
Yep.
And that intrinsic value. And people say, oh, money doesn't matter. Mm. The grocery store might differ. You can't
Right.
buy that coconut oil if you
The
don't
landlord
have the
doesn't take
$4.
the landlord doesn't take love as payment, right? The bank doesn't
Right?
take love
Hugs
as
don't
payment.
really go very far. It's
Yeah,
just creepy.
exactly. Exactly.
So, all right. So for the viewers, don't forget, find Seth on Instagram. I will put it in the show notes. We will get people to you, because that is a doorway that so many people could walk through but don't,
Yep, absolutely.
because we don't know either. A lot of it is we don't know the doorways there. Oh, how can I do this? Oh, I don't have $3 million in the bank. I can't do this. Oh, no, wait, but you can.
Absolutely. 100%.
So,
Yep.
so that's a great way to get them started. And we will see you next time on the Dr. Mo Show.